Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Friday, December 12th, 2025, episode 300 of the show, no less. And today we are taking on a cover crop conundrum, giving credit to the people behind the people, and it's Feedback Friday. So let's do it. All right, happy Friday, everyone, and happy 300 episodes of this ridiculous show. That is wild, honestly, because it turns out that I hadn't been labeling the shows right for the last 2 months. Mike was the one who caught that we were actually at show 300. I truly would have just blown past this milestone without even knowing, and then celebrated it in a few weeks, long after episode 300. But that's 300 episodes, nearly 1,000 segments, wild stuff, and several of you mentioned on a show last week that you also had not missed an episode, so now you know. That's 300 of them that we have shared, and we are delighted that you come back for it every day. So much love for you all. No doubt this show is the biggest challenge I've ever put on myself, and especially for the duration of it so far. Certainly in the beginning, I had no idea how long I would be able to maintain this much mental load and work every day, but huge shouts to Mike and Michelle, who take a lot of the additional work off my shoulders that it takes to keep this thing going. From the editing to the sponsors, all the things, which 100% makes this thing possible. So anyway, happy 300th episode, y'all. Here's to the next 300, beyond, who knows? I feel good though. Got the old rhythm going. Just fear the World Cup is going to screw everything up because, some of these games are going to be late at night, especially because the U.S. plays on the West Coast, which, boo. June could be rough. We'll see. Anyway, it is Friday, which means Feedback Friday, where we explore what you all were saying about this week's topics. On Monday, we discussed finding our own agronomists, planting into compost mulch, and are there leaves you should avoid? On the leaf thing, a few people, like at David Penfold and at Philaflom, good regular commenters, both mentioned or asked about the risks with black walnut leaves, and not really. I mean, here's the thing to keep in mind. Assuming you could even find enough walnut leaves to make a difference, even then I wouldn't be too worried about it. They have done studies on plants grown immediately after a walnut forest was removed and found really only trace amounts in fruits, in this case, cucumbers. It existed, and some plants are more susceptible than others, but a literal forest of walnut trees, that's like the leaves, the roots, all the things, and it wasn't that intense for that long. The germination and growth suppressive chemical juglone does not have an extensive half-life, so even in highly concentrated areas, you're really just talking a few weeks or a few months of concern. But obviously that will be weather dependent, soil dependent, even walnut species dependent. So in a situation though where you do wind up with excessive walnut leaves or wood chips, just compost them for a bit and you should be good to go, or send them to me. I'll take them. On Tuesday, we talked about planting into cover crop residue. Can you ripen nightshades by topping the plants and farm businessing? Loads of great comments on these topics. About ripening peppers, at Kirsty Pollock wrote, quote, I found this year, much to my surprise, that peppers, especially bell and long sweet ones, ripened very readily off the plant in a bowl with some apples, just like tomatoes, end quote. And yes, this is a thing. Bananas and apples and several other fruits give off ethylene gas as they chill and slowly rot on your countertop, which is a fun little gas that you will remember is part of what is required for fruit to mature and ripe on the vine. So yeah, put them in a box with an apple and it can speed up the process a little bit. Also on the ripening side, Mr. Queer Duck wrote, quote, interesting that topping doesn't necessarily speed ripening. I read that stressing a tomato can help, topping, root pruning, and double time between watering. Always appreciate that your sources are studies and experience rather than lore, end quote. And yeah, I also see this stuff on the internet, but I cannot really find any research to back it up. One part of that, though, is that a lot of the research about tomatoes in terms of ripening is about post-harvest ripening, like how to slow ripening down to ship them further without spoilage and then to ripen them. So I don't want to say it's impossible that you can't ripen them faster. I just can't find any evidence or anything that supports how you would do that, and whether or not it's root pruning, I don't know. Maybe, but I just truly can't find anything that supports that, I guess. That said, there is evidence that water stress can improve the quality of tomatoes around ripening, which anyone who has enjoyed a drought around ripening of field tomatoes will tell you those tomatoes slap, even if there are, of course, fewer of them because, yield goes down when water goes down. This same idea applies to many fruits as well. Wine grape growers will often tell you, they want a lot of moisture to kind of kick off the season, and then they want it to back off, to improve the quality of their grapes. Whether it will ripen something faster, I can't really say, but I will keep looking into this because when something is this pervasive, there's usually something behind it, often misunderstood science, but something, somewhere. So we'll keep looking. On Wednesday, we talked about mulch papers, winter farm hygiene, and alfalfa hay. At Auto Nomads wrote, quote, just check craft process, K-R-A-F-T, in Wikipedia. It's quite gross. Plus, you never know for what use was the cardboard and papers before recycling, end quote. Thanks. And I don't know if this was the point that they were trying to make, but one of the issues is not like what's in the paper, though there could be some theoretical things that could have long enough half-lives to, raise some concerns. But more than that, it is what it takes to create these papers, i.e. the manufacturing itself can be controversial because of the gases it releases and the water it pollutes. Again, it needs to be said and resaid and said many different ways. We don't actually want more manufacturing in the U.S. We don't really want more manufacturing anywhere in the world if we care about our soil and farmland. It's the needless consumerism we need to address, not the lack of manufacturing on our farmland. So again, as I alluded to that day, if you're going to use cardboard of some sort, I would just suggest getting clean ones from a dump so we're not supporting factories that may be polluting farmland somewhere else in the world. Also that day, at Matt Cantley wrote, quote, Jesse, I just received my YouTube recap. Top 0.4% of viewers of your channel. I cannot thank you enough. You have played a huge role in my garden journey these last 3 years. I've converted 900 square feet of unused Bermuda into a 12-bed no-till garden paradise. I plan to grow as much food as I can for my family and offered garden coaching on the weekends. Cottontown, Tennessee, end quote. And very cool to hear. Thank you. I got a lot of those sorts of messages last week about where we were on people's Spotify lists and where we were on your YouTube viewing. So that's very cool to see. And I really appreciate all of you listeners and viewers out there. Amazing stuff. Genuinely and literally for some of you, after we had you do the theme song thing for our 1 year anniversary, you rock. Then on Thursday, we talked about planting late fall strawberries, testing soil moisture, and a specific farming challenge about needing to break into a new property, needing to grow something there, but not having any ground ready yet. On that conundrum, at Slaplapdog wrote, quote, for the Patreon question, how about tilling then planting Austrian winter peas or fava beans for a winter crop? Alternatively, if a field of sunchokes counts towards the cultivated area requirement, then you have a one-and-done solution, end quote. First, I love favas, very delicious legume, so that has my endorsement in theory. The only problem being that they would have to prepare the soil somehow to get them, growing, and then they would have to still be likely competing with some amount of weeds in the spring. Now, could you plow it, mulch it, and then plant fall favas or, something like that? Maybe, at least in some areas that can work. It will depend a little bit on your climate. As for sunchokes, another crop I love, it would still require, some soil prep for success. And moreover, it is a perennial, so it does perennialize. So you'd want to absolutely make sure you can grow it and then you can sell a boatload of it, which ain't always super easy. Anyway, I like the outside of the box thinking though. Appreciate that. Also, that day at William Curry wrote, quote, this was just another reminder to be patient and not screw up the beginning of the next growing season. Thanks, Farmer Jay. It's not even Christmas and I want to get outside already, end quote. Yeah, hear that. Especially when it comes to starting a garden, slow down and do it right the first time, or you will have to deal with that rush for many years to come. Great stuff as always this week, family. Best comment section on YouTube as always. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, a little cover crop conundrum to go with our, starting garden conundrum. Lots of conundrums this week. I mean, what else are you going to do in all this snow? Yeah, we're getting snow again anyway. BRB. Today's episode is brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud supporter of Growers Daily. At Johnny's, they do more than sell seeds. They grow them. They trial them to see how they perform on Johnny's research farm in Maine and across the U.S. and Canada. Only the best varieties are added to their catalog and website. When you need proven varieties you can count on and detailed guidance from seedling to harvest, consider Johnny's your trusted growing partner. JohnnySeeds.com. That's JohnnySeeds.com. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere the questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions now. Today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Christopher Frazier, who asks, quote, longtime lurker, first-time poster, and just finished my second year of no-till gardening in my backyard. Many years experience with container/raised bed gardening. I live in Tennessee, Zone 7B, and have struggled in both spring and fall this year with cover crops. Could you give a breakdown of converting generic terms such as early/late spring and late summer, etc., to specific timeframes in relation to frosts? I planted some peas/oats mix from Johnny's September 20th, and they absolutely thrived. Finished covering the rest of the garden September 28th and October 4th, but those only got about 2 inches before the frost set in this week. Both seasons had dark, rainy, and 50 to 65 degrees temperature, that's 10 to 18 degrees Celsius, for a month during those growing periods, and I'm trying to see if I was just unlucky or if I can make adjustments for next year. Thanks in advance for answering this and everything else you do for all of us, end quote. All right, good questions here. Thank you. So, yes, I think I talked a bit about this in the summer, but there is a massive difference when planting cover crops for us in the region we more or less share, though you're a tad bit warmer, between mid-September and early October. I mean, honestly, it's all the difference. Meaning, if you plant the cover crop in mid-September or around the 20th in your case, as you observed, you will get a good stand, it will grow tall, it will die hard, and mulch your winter beds for the winter like a winner. Bingo, bango. If you plant that same cover crop in the late month, even just like a couple weeks later, it will germinate but stay small. This, as you can see here, is the pea cover crop I planted in early October, which, if you're still watching on YouTube, you can see is just a few inches tall. And this is the pea cover crop that I planted in mid-September, a couple weeks earlier, beaten back by the hard frosts we've had, but it got tall and happily, it's kind of dead and mulching away. The difference is huge, and a large part of that is simply the daylight and warmth. Crops need both of those things to thrive, and the daylight dives significantly over those 2 or 3 weeks. What you can expect there is that the cover crops that are 2 inches tall at this point will likely survive the winter, and you will have to deal with them in the spring. Now, a really, really hard winter may have something to say about that, but small peas can be stubbornly hardy. Also, I should say, as I have said in other videos, in warmer climates than my own here, Kentucky Zone 6B, I recommend staying away from oats as a winter kill cover crop in general. It has to be pretty dang mature to reliably winter kill, which can be hard to get them in early enough if you're still summer cropping. I personally avoid pre-mixed cover crops for that reason, because if things happen and I get behind, I may have to nix the oats, for instance, and just roll with the peas, because in the worst case scenario, peas on their own are just easier to manage in the spring than peas and oats mixed together, or oats in general. What oats need to winter kill is just to be big when they start getting those really first hard frosts. If they get big enough, they will die, so it may be worth planting them a week before the peas and then sowing the peas over top of them or in between the oats rows or whatever makes sense. Now, you also asked if I could give a breakdown of converting terms such as early/late spring and late summer, etc., to specific timeframes in relation to frost dates. I don't know if I know exactly how to answer that, but I consider early summer to just be before the solstice, so late May, early June for you, or about 4 to 5 weeks after your last frost of the spring. Early spring is March, when the sunlight returns and things start to grow again, about 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost. That's arbitrary and based on your region, because the window will be shorter in colder climates and longer in warmer ones, but I do hope that's at least a little bit helpful. As for late summer, I mean, you're really talking about September, which is like fake summer. People think of it as the fall. It is not. It is still the summer, at least in our region. But it is definitely late summer because we're losing all that sunlight. So probably think of late summer as, 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost. Also, there may be years where, summer heat starts in early May, and other years where you can still get a frost at May 10th. We got a freeze on May 12th in 2020, which was just a nice thing to throw on top of all the other madness that year. Otherwise, thanks for the question, and best of luck on the cover cropping. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, an ode to the ones who make everything possible. Be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. Farmers who partnered with Farmhand say they grew an average of 63% this year because it's more than software. Farmhand is your business coach and assistant, helping to sell out, save time, and grow smarter with real data from real farms, shaping websites that convert, campaigns that sell, and fulfillment systems that run smoothly. Curious what that looks like? Meet the founder, Ari, at farmhand.partners/no-till and see the same insights and support the fastest growing farms rely on every week. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. Today's episode is also brought to you by FarmRaise. Still struggling with your balance sheet? Your lender's asking for a balance sheet and you're stuck with a spreadsheet mess or guessing your numbers? FarmRaise Tracks takes the stress out of farm finance. With one click, you can generate an accurate,
up-to-date balance sheet that shows your assets, liabilities, and equity. No accounting degree required. You'll be ready for loan applications, tax season, or just a clearer picture of where your farm stands. Join thousands of farmers using Trax to build stronger businesses. Get 20% off with code NOTIL20 at farmraise.com for the lifetime of your membership. All right, back to the show.
All right, so we got a comment this week that sparked a topic I was excited to touch on. It came on Monday from @AmyPeary, who wrote, quote, "Just have to say, I love that you've added the wife shouts every day. Very sweet," and a little heart emoji, end quote. "And thank you, and it was a long overdue addition, honestly, thanking my wife for all that she does. There are very few people throughout history who could have done what they do, no matter how small, like, for instance, a farming/soccer podcast, or how big, like, for instance, a farming/soccer podcast, who did it alone. There is almost always an incredibly hardworking but often unheralded partner behind the scenes, making the life of that person and often that person's kids and family and community possible. Einstein once famously said, 'My wife does my mathematics,' which may have been an understatement. His wife, Maliva Maric, was a great physicist in her own right and is said to have contributed or even possibly come up with some of Einstein's most well-known theories. No doubt she played a role in his success, a big one, and in his renown, but we don't equate genius with this power couple or with her. We just equate it with Einstein himself. Now, there is some speculation that Maliva was perfectly happy with her role, but she was also not given much of a choice, given the substantial patriarchy of the time. I only use that example to explore this idea of just how few things are ever done alone and how much we heap praise on the person who visibly does them and not all the support that they get. How much credit the people who support even inform the leaders, the figures, the celebrities, the podcasters, the farmers, any of the quote-unquote doers of the world, how little recognition their support ever gets, despite their undeniable importance. I can think of countless conversations that Hannah and I have had about things that helped shape how I view the world. Many of the things that I've talked about on this show, we will have long, thoughtful conversations that help to color much of who I am and what I discuss here. I am not Farmer Jesse without Farmer Hannah. Our farm does not run without her, our family, our house, the show. Hannah makes it all possible. And I think it's important that we all take a regular moment to recognize the people who make our lives possible. I hope I help make her life possible as well. I always say that the key to a healthy relationship, I think, is to always be doing more for them than they do for you. And although I know that's not possible, especially given the mountain of work that Hannah handles every day, but I try, I think about it, I'm conscious of it, and thanking her on the show came way too belatedly because I'm not always good at recognizing the opportunities. I have to give her the credit that she deserves. But the other thing about relationships is that they are like anything. Over time, if you care about it enough and you work hard at it, you'll get better at being in one. Anyway, shouts to my wonderful wife, Hannah, and all the partners out there who don't get the credit for the world that they prop up. Hannah and I have our 14th wedding anniversary coming up. I don't know how I got so lucky. Let me know your thoughts on the people not just behind the scenes, but the people who make the scenes even possible at all. Otherwise, we're going to peace out Friday and peace out for episode 300. I got some snow to attend to. Here's to the next how many ever we do. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You can learn more about how to do that in the show notes. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors, and if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife, Hannah, for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support this work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of December, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Patrick Weaver. Always keeping Fridays alive, Patrick is. Shouts to Patrick. All right, so this week's story, as you will remember from way back on Wednesday, because we skipped Thursday, we didn't have any new signups. Anyway, our hero Sleeves just wanted to garden, but living in New York City, that was a hard proposition, and no one wanted to give this kid a place to grow food. No one until he met Sour Paul, who was renegade gardening, also sometimes called guerrilla gardening, but Paul marches kind of to the beat of his own drum. Anyway, they spent the summer growing food, but there was also this one plant Sour Paul went and checked on every morning in the spring, a bean he planted near a tall building downtown. It sprouted pretty quickly, but it was kind of a little bean at first. And then finally, after about, a couple weeks, the plant exploded in size and climbed straight up the side of this building. The next morning, to Sleeves' surprise, Sour Paul just started climbing it. And he turned around and he asked, "You coming?" And so Sleeves ascended with him hundreds of feet in the air. Sourpaw was not super good about safety. He's not the most safety conscious person in the world anyway. That's for a different story. But where at the top of this massive beanstalk was not like giants, like in other, at the end of other beanstalks, but rather a rooftop full of deep soil that no one knew about. And so they got to work gardening there, growing food, parachuting it down. And so Sleeves had found his place in the world. Anywhere. All right, that's kind of a fun ending. All right, anyway, thanks for watching and/or listening. We'll see you on Monday. Bye.
With the state of today's economy, it's more important than ever to invest in products that last for years to come. As the seasons shift and get cooler, make sure your closet is stocked with durable layers that stand the test of time from American Giant. American Giant's clothes work harder and are wearable season after season. Their greatest hoodie ever made is made from the highest quality materials that are cut and sewn right here in the United States, so you're investing right back in your local community. Choosing American Giant means taking a stand for American manufacturing and hardworking Americans, something other mega corporations don't care about. From fleece to knit, all in a range of colors for versatile daily wear, American Giant delivers everyday pieces designed for everyday life. Feel the difference of quality, made-to-last clothes from American Giant. Get 20% off your first order with code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with code STAPLE20.